Good evening. We are live tonight, and of course, it's my pleasure to welcome you to this live Instagram chat with Mr. Omoyele Sowore, the publisher of Sahara Reporters. And in a short while, we'll be joined by Mr. Omoyele Sowore, and like we did say, that of course, we are going to take a look at the theme, the George Floyd effect, and what lessons Nigerians can learn from that. I want to say a very special welcome to Mr. Chidi Cadet, who is the MD of Worship Media Canada. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Chidi Cadet. And of course, we are expecting Mr. Omoyele Sowore to join us in a short while on this Instagram Live. I'm glad to let you know that Mr. Omoyele Sowore is in the house. Mr. Omoyele Sowore, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, Kenwa. Nice to
Yeah, good evening.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, great.
Yeah. It's my pleasure to have you on this show tonight, to have the timely conversation, the George Floyd effect, and what Nigerians can make out of it.
Yes.
Okay, just a quick background for the sake of our listeners. Who is George Floyd, and what can we make out of all of the protests? Why was there a protest recently that disrupted all of the world's attention that was focused on the pandemic? All of a sudden, the desire to tackle injustice to one and, of course, injustice to all took the stage. So who is George Floyd, and what can we make out of that story?
I didn't hear that part very well. I had an interrupting call. You said you wanted me to tell them the story of George Floyd?
Just a brief background, like of the George Floyd protest and the riot. Yeah.
Yes. George Floyd is a U.S. citizen who was a bouncer in the state of Minnesota, particularly in the city of Minneapolis. So about 4 police officers accosted him, accusing him of going to cash a dog check, and they said he forged the check, and they approached him, and before you could say, as they say here, Jack Robinson has been forcefully arrested without much resistance, at least based on what we saw, and they held him to the ground, claiming that he resisted arrest. An officer who was seen all over the world placed his knee on his neck and his hand in his pocket for 8 minutes, 6 seconds, I believe. Was it 26 seconds? He made sure he died. That's what we saw before an ambulance arrived. It was as if the ambulance was timed to arrive at the point of death. And the ambulance eventually arrived, and you can see that George they passed out. It turns out that there's a white police officer with whom George had worked in a nightclub in the past, and must have had a lot of hatred for him and took his life. So what followed, of course, was an outrage by activists around the U.S. and eventually around the world to protest what is seen as discrimination and high-handedness of the U.S. police against blacks. And you can count how many blacks have been killed. But contextually, we also, at that same point in time in our life, was undergoing a lockdown in Nigeria here. And our own security agents at least killed 12 people by the time we stopped counting, just for the first week of the lockdown in Warri, and here in Abuja, I think in Lagos, Port Harcourt, several places people were killed. And the question we keep asking ourselves in larger context of it is like, why was there no reaction in Nigeria? As a matter of fact, the reaction to Judge Floyd's death from Nigeria far outweighs the reaction to Nigerians that really being killed here at home. Uh, in fact, it got to the ridiculous point where some guys who were the same people that came to court to ask the federal government to lock me up, the same guys who attacked Deji Adeyanju when he went to the Human Rights Commission to fight for my release, the same guy also went to the U.S. Embassy to protest George Floyd's death. So you see the irony and the contradiction in our lives in this country called Nigeria. So, and as you have seen all over the world, there's been an outrage, and I must say that this outrage that we are experiencing doesn't have something to do entirely with George Floyd at all. He was just the symbol of the resistance that has been built and the frustration of a lot of people around the world. As these right-wing leaders return back to power in places like the US, the UK, and there's been pent-up frustration by citizens of several of these countries over their own treatment in the hands of their government. And when the opportunity came with George Floyd's death, they went after the instrument of state, the most prominent symbol and instrument of cohesion and oppression and suppression, that's the police. But what people are saying about the US that they didn't know before now is that the US, the United States, is a police state, completely police state, where the use of unreasonable force has become state policy. But I think this was aggravated by the election of the man now in power, who has made it a policy to stir racial tension in the country. So I guess this explains what I think could be an intro to our conversation.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Sowore. I was particularly kind of captivated by the spontaneity, the instancy with which people took to the streets. It just appeared there have been long-term planning. And I'm just wondering, is it that in Nigeria we've not really seen enough for people to exhibit that level of spontaneity? Let me follow it up with one of your quotes, that of course, for a people to experience the needed revolution, they just have to fix a date, not subject to the approval of the oppressor. It's one of the statements you made. So I am wondering, that schedule you spoke about, is it something that comes by law of natural selection? Some people believe that for you to have a revolution, you don't actually need to set a date like you did sometime last year. That it's just something that has to, come on its own. Or is there also a room for people to schedule a date, to stand for what they believe in?
I'm glad you use the word start. You can schedule a date to start a series of action that will eventually end up in the kind of result revolution. And that is what we started last year. We chose a date because we wanted to start a series of actions, and we called that date the beginning of the day of rage. That we want the whole country to stop and watch and say no, enough is enough with what is going on in Nigeria. And unbeknownst to a lot of people, it started on that date. And whatever happened after then has been building public consciousness in a way that is commendable. And that doesn't mean that the day you start is the day that the revolution will end. It's a series of events. If you look at Nigeria today, you can tell that there's, pent-up anger, there's frustration, and there's consciousness. Because you can be frustrated, you can be angry. If there's no consciousness behind it, you will not, have any outcome that is desirable. But I don't think we have enough yet. I have to be honest with you. I still haven't seen enough consciousness that can lead us into the kind of protests or direct action that you saw with George Floyd all over the world, or like the kind of direct action we saw this last weekend in Mali. I don't know if you've heard about Mali. There's some activities this last weekend, and they asked their president to leave. Uh, so what is happening is that I'm seeing more and more of objective conditions that will help people to move one day, and I think we will move. I just don't have a date for you. I don't have a crystal ball that will predict that date.
Okay.
But I think Nigerians are getting there, and the lockdown, the COVID-19 lockdown may have helped and not helped. And there are two other factors that have always taken us away from revolutionary thinking. That's been a major distraction. One of it is sports, soccer, football. Whenever you see soccer, especially when the seasons are in top gear, a lot of Nigerians get distracted by soccer. Everybody's talking about European soccer, uh, the English Premier League. That's a major distraction, honestly. And if in the middle of it, you then have another major competition coming up, assuming we're going to have the Olympics, I think in 2020, I would have been worried. But now I heard the Olympic has been shifted. So the second is religion. You know, it takes a lot away from public consciousness because that is where the real Kool-Aid is served on our people. When people go to church on Sundays, Friday mosque, and it's a cycle that's never ending. I keep telling you the same thing. Calm down, pray for the leaders. Don't worry, everything's gonna be all right. Don't worry about this world. The heaven is waiting for you. But the religious leaders are having a good time here and there. Great time, flying jets, uh, sending their children to some of the best schools in the world. When they are sick, they don't drink. They don't drink holy water. They go to real hospitals. They fly out. They go on medical checkups, like just to keep well, so that they can keep the people in that state of you know being served the opium, which is what religion does to people. So those are two factors that may come back and take this away. But I hope that we continue. There are conversations aggravating enough to keep people on their toes and ready for when our own time will come, and I'm sure it will come sooner than later.
Okay, thank you so much. You just cited a reference of religious leaders. And when you also look at the traditional institutions, you also discover we have some challenges, not to talk about the political leadership. What accounts for this bad leadership all across both traditional, religious, and of course political? Is there anything with wrong leadership when it comes
Well,
to Nigeria?
one of them is history. We've had a broken history of bad leadership, right? Um, it's the truth, and they've been here with us. They've been doing what they like. It started from the periods of slavery down to colonialism and then independence. We have the misfortune of having a broken history of bad leadership. So we can't even point to in my own lifetime, and I'm going to be 50 soon. I can't point to any good leader in this country. No, not in my lifetime. Since I was conscious enough, which was around 1980. When I was 10 years old, I knew about Shagari. No, I knew about Basunjo. Actually, I even knew about Muritala Basunjo, but barely conscious. And then Shagari, then Buhari, and Babangida, Shineko and Basha. Yeah, I've been through all this. You can't point to any of these guys. And all of them are still alive, by the way. Except, I think Shagari is dead, I'm not sure. But, yeah. All of them are still alive, most of them. And they ruin this country. The second aspect is, they say when you are pointing one finger at a person, the rest of the foot is pointing at it's us. We are responsible for our kind of leaders because there was a quote I put out last week. It wasn't from me. I saw it somewhere and picked it up. I don't even know who made up the quote. He said there are two ways to get a prosperous country or a nation. It's either you elect good leaders or you revolt. We haven't elected good leaders and we haven't revolted yet. So that's why we're stuck where we are. So we are responsible for our situation. Definitely responsible for our situation.
Okay, thank you so much. And one of the things personally I've not been comfortable with is the fact that our people love hero worship, like celebrating the same people behind their problem. You know, what's responsible for this slave kind of mindset? You know, we complained about the colonial masters, and now even our own masters are not in any way fairer, but people still celebrate them, down to local government chairmen. You know, people that are meant to bring governance close to the people, even right in the rural areas. But the impact of governance is not felt, you know, in most cases in the 774 local governments in Nigeria, which is designed to ensure that governance gets to every person at the grassroots.
It'd be difficult to say that if Nigerians are hero worshiping. There are no heroes here to worship. People are just worshiping the criminals that come their way, from whom they can benefit. It's driven largely by greed. So you can find a generous criminal in your area. You know, you worship them, right? You just worship them if they're generous enough to show kindness to you, from even monies that are stolen from you. So, and when you don't see the moral character of an average Nigerian has been weakened by greed and hunger, starvation, lack of opportunity. So when you don't have all these things, right, you can go to the US today and still find United States citizens that don't know who Donald Trump is. You know, because they're comfortable where they are.
Wow, that's serious.
They don't care. You know, you ask them who's Donald, who. Some of them might even tell you that it's still Obama that is still in power, but they will still get paid for work done. Even when they don't get paid for work, they will get support, social security from the system that keeps them going. So they don't have to know the president of the country. They don't have to know their government. They don't have to know the local government chairman. See, one time in New York City, the mayor of New York entered the train and nobody greeted him. You know, nobody even stood up from the seats for him because they don't care who he is. Some people know him, but they're like, you don't feed me, and we put you there. So what are we talking about? Why should I have to greet you? If it's Nigeria, if the mayor wants to enter a train, they will empty the entire train for the mayor. The whole train could be like 24 cars or 10 cars. They will say, everybody come down, come down, come down. In fact, they won't ask you to come down. Mopo will be beating you left, right, and center just because of one man. So part of it is also that a lot of our people have internalized oppression to accept whatever is thrown their way. So when a criminal comes into office, so even people who don't benefit from them, they will be working for them for free. Facebook, Twitter is an example of that. I don't think all the guys who are supporting what is wrong on Twitter and Facebook are benefiting from those in power. I doubt it. But some are doing it because they have internalized oppression. They've accepted their fate. You know, it's fait accompli. Yeah, so they will even be asking you to pray for the leaders. Some of them will tell you that you are insulting the leader. They will ask you to respect the office of whomever you are talking about. I have to face this all the time, both as a journalist and as a political activist. You know, even people you don't expect, you know, people who you think are educated, you make comments like that will make your stomach shine. I was like, what? What did you just say? Those are things of internalization of oppression. And there's nothing you can do about it until you change that culture, you change the country, and you change the kind of leadership that has made that possible. Because one thing you got to recognize about all of this, is that the situation that Nigeria is in today is well organized. They organize Nigeria to be poor. They organize Nigerians to be subservient. They organize Nigerians to be complacent. They organize Nigerians to be conditioned in several ways that you see them today. You know, there are policies that is directed or that are directed to make Nigerians become the kind of people that are, you know, being ridiculed all over the world today at the butt of jokes. I mean, imagine a single person in Ghana went and demolished the diplomatic,
very unfortunate.
diplomatic property belonging to the Federal Republic of Nigeria. There's no madman that will do that to the U.S. Because why? The U.S. can determine that the offense you committed, even in your own country, is punishable in their country, and they'll get you extradited.
Yeah. I quite agree with you. Let me quickly interject.
Somalian pirates that were not hijacking U.S. boats, some of them were taken to the U.S. to face trial. So nobody would do that. You think twice. You think twice if you are going to do that to European countries. You think about sanctions and the consequences. But it's Nigeria. They look at it as look at weak leadership. There's nothing to do to us. Those, like a whole block of buildings on the diplomatic property. So that tells you that this thing is not only at home, it's also abroad. Nobody respects us because we don't respect ourselves. And we have not acted as a majority. We have not acted as a respectable people. You see, when you are dealing with a South African today, your position about a South African black person is that he has fought for freedom, that he fought apartheid. What do you say of Nigerians? You just look at them as, I think it's not the same people that have been governed by dead people, incompetent people, brain dead people, people who don't know their left from their right, illiterate. You look at that's the way they look at us. Even a woman.
Mr. Sowore, let me quickly interject. I think yesterday I tweeted something about the Ghana issue of destroying our diplomatic property, and I did say I made a particular statement. I say, well, respect is reciprocal, and so is disrespect. That and I asked a simple question. I say, is the Ghana embassy in Nigeria, is it not costly enough? Some minutes after, I got a call from the Ghanaian embassy. Even though I missed the call, I saw through caller, it was Ghana embassy that called, and also checked on the website, and I saw that. And I was wondering if, as an individual, a high commission could reach out, because I know my right as a Nigerian. What will make the president of Ghana, if he says he's looking into this particular matter, not to reach out to our president? And I will actually want to get your recommendation. What do you think Nigeria should have done in a case like this?
No, look, I'm not going to ask Nigeria to go and invade Ghana because the Ghanaian demolished the embassy of Ghana. I mean, the embassy of property. No, that's not what I'm preaching. I am saying that over time, if we have been a respectable nation, a nation state that is respected by other nations, we would have not found ourselves in the situation we found ourselves. Nobody would have had the effrontery to just go demolish. It wasn't demolished by the Ghanaian government, so there's no need even punishing the Ghanaian government. It was demolished by a Ghanaian who claimed that Nigeria is the owner of the land, and claimed that Nigeria did not, that they had asked Nigeria to relocate their property and they have refused. But to know that there was complicity and lack of respect for Nigeria, law enforcement agencies did not even show up when they called them to come and do something about it. Because, again, it plays to my position that nobody respects us, gentlemen and ladies. Nobody. The people don't respect us. And you cannot, you earn respect. You can't force people to respect you. So let's assume that another mad person goes to the Ghanaian embassy and demolish it with a caterpillar, with a bulldozer. It won't earn us respect, because that respect is not going to come from, that stupid reciprocity. I don't advise it, and I will never encourage it. I won't support it. But you said something that you got a call from the Ghanaian High Commission in Nigeria. That tells you that they are responsive enough to everything to call you, right? If you cannot get a call from the Nigerian embassy in Ghana, even if you need anything from them. If you call them, even the one in New York, if you call them, their phone rings forever. It doesn't even have a voicemail, I think. Maybe now they do. You can't find anybody in Nigerian embassy, high commission, permanent high mission, permanent mission, anywhere to respond to you, except if it is for the VIPs. If someone is coming, if its daughter or the VIP is coming to have a baby or son, yes, they will deploy all the resources at their disposal to support that person, but they don't work or fight for Nigerians. That was why it was strange to Nigerians when they saw a Nigerian consulate officer or consular officer who went to fight for some Nigerians in China the other day. It was so novel. People started sending me the videos. Like, finally, you know, there's somebody who can stand up for Nigerians within
Yeah.
the Christian circles. But I'm just saying that it's not doing something stupid that will earn us respect. It's building a nation that is respectable, that respect. It's the way our leaders treat us here that people look at when they see us outside. They treat us like animals. So you don't expect that this, you know, these things they see on a daily basis. They read our news. They see us on the internet, Facebook, you know, all the social media platforms, microblogging platforms. They see that our leaders treat us like crap. So why won't they do the same thing to us?
Okay, and one of the things I've also wondered, leaders are quick to travel to overseas. They see lots of wonderful things, but are unable to replicate them in their nation. Sometimes send their kids abroad to have access to the best form of education. So, but why do you think they don't have the desire, the passion to replicate same? You want something good, but you don't want to, you know, to grow it in your own vineyard.
Honestly, you cannot give people what you don't have. See, you can see something, you can't replicate it if you don't have knowledge, if you don't have exposure, if you don't have will and conviction to do what is right. Most of our leaders, when they go out as tourists. Even when they attend international events, they attend as a group of tourists. And when you do that, you can't replicate what you see elsewhere because you went to see there and keep it there so that it fascinates you. You know, there was a time that the president of Nigeria, I think it was under Goodluck Jonathan, traveled with over 600 people to Israel, right? The population of Israel is not, I don't think it's more than Abuja, you know, or Lagos. I don't know. I don't want to speculate too much. And then you see, you know, he's wearing the Jewish toupee, and they're placing hands on his head. And, you know, I'm sure the Israelis are laughing at them. Like, your president came for tourism, you know. It doesn't make sense. But if you go to Israel, they didn't bring anything back from Israel that can be replicated here. You know, Israel is an advanced country in terms of social and physical infrastructure because they are tourists. They don't have the capacity to think of even replicating anything. You know, and you don't have to travel abroad to replicate what is over there here. You can do it just by way of understanding what needs to be done. So it boils down to the kind of leaders we have and we've always had. You have tourists as leaders, they will always be touring the world and having fun and getting fascinated by the better things in other parts of the world. If Nigeria were to have those physical infrastructures that they have in Israel, that they have in the UK, they have in America, people will be coming here as well. I mean, look at the small nation of Jamaica, you know. Everybody likes to go to Jamaica. Jamaica is poorer than us in every ramification. You know, their debt profile is as bad as our own. But if you go to Jamaica today, I've been to Montego Bay, you drive from the airport all the way to your hotel, you won't get a bump. I went to Mexico. When I was going to Mexico, I was worried that, you know, maybe there will be crime rate there is high. And I went to Mexico, southern Mexico. I was surprised at how lovely, you know, Mexico is. You know, the physical infrastructure everywhere is clean. You know, so when you want people to come to your country, you have to develop your country. If you don't want people to come to your country, you underdevelop your country so that your people will go to other country and go see how developed nations work. So they don't have the capacity. You have to understand that leadership requires brain power, and that's something that is in short supply amongst our leaders or rulers.
Okay, yeah. One of the major concerns we've shared as a people is the very fact that the teeming population of young people, it's always on the rise, but there's no strategy to ensure proper youth engagement, that young persons are properly deployed as developers, as nation builders, having something to do to contribute to the issue of nation building. And of course, you've mentioned about sports and entertainment, which in some cases, when young persons are, hooked up to that, and also to the social media, many actually assume that they are employed. Sometimes, I used to say before the advent of social media, when someone is out of school for 2 months and you don't have job, you can get bored, but thanks to the social media, you can migrate from one platform to another. And many people only remember they are unemployed when they run out of data. So
Yeah.
what can we actually make out of the teeming population
Look,
of young people?
we have to be grateful to technology, or grateful for technology as well, because data has also become a resource. It's not everybody who is on social media is there to kill boredom. A lot of people are making money off of being on
Yeah,
social
sure.
media. There are
Yeah,
people
sure.
who run their businesses on Facebook, you know, on Twitter, on Instagram. In fact, if we take out social media today in the life of this country, this country will collapse, or maybe the revolution we are waiting for will happen the next day, because there are a lot of small businesses. Nigerians are interestingly very innovative people. So a lot of people have created, their own little businesses around the social media platforms, and they are using that to sustain themselves as self-employed persons. They are using that to also network and get support from others. So, were it not for Facebook, maybe some people will not even have money at all. But even Facebook can help you with panhandling, which is to ask help from many people. Maybe out of 20 people, somebody will give you, 5,000 naira sometimes. And out of that 5,000 naira, you can. So, social media is helping to democratize wealth. It's just not. It's just not the way, to make it if the country was working. I'm just giving the
Okay.
example
Uh,
just
uh,
to
uh,
let you know that
uh,
and if we had the right kind of leadership here, Nigeria would have become a tech hub where we can be making apps. We can even have backends for international corporations to be receiving and handling phone calls the way they are doing in India. It's tech that pushed India to where it is today, prosperously.
okay. So whose responsibility is it to make that happen, to create that policy
Digitally,
direction in terms of,
digitally
yeah.
wired leaders, not these analog people. Yeah.
Okay.
I
Okay.
mean,
So,
look at the last two. Look at the communication sector, which is in reality is bigger than oil right now. Look at the person who was former communication minister, who former. There was that's what's the guy from Oyo State? I forgot his name. The guy who said I was
is it for
inconsequential.
NCC? Are you
No, the
talking
guy who
about
said
NCC?
huh? The guy who said I was inconsequential. On
Okay. Okay. That's
the that
Shitu.
minister who is now in
Shitu.
the Shitu.
Yeah.
Sorry. So people like Shitu, I don't even think that Shitu knows how to operate an email. I'm telling you, I've been beside him one on one. He doesn't believe in women's rights. He covers the faces of his wives. He has, he doesn't understand how the modern world works. Then you move from Shitu, you go and put Patami there, who is also an Islamic teacher. He doesn't talk to women. He doesn't shake hands with women. He doesn't believe in equality. He probably also doesn't know what technology means. But he's the communication, he's the minister in charge of communication. They don't believe in internet freedoms. And that is key to communication, modern communication. So when you have all these, square pegs and round holes, you are screwed. And on top of it, the man at the top, the guy at the top, that's Bubu himself, Buhari. The man doesn't know his left from his right. I don't think Buhari knows how to operate I don't know. I don't think he knows how to operate a computer. I don't know. I don't think he knows how to turn on a laptop or an iPad. So how are you going to get what you need when you have people who don't know what they want?
Okay. Oh, thank you so much. Then, during the George Floyd effect, the protest and of course the riot, one of the young men associated with the police complaint unit handle was trying to compare the Nigerian police with that of the US, making a case for police brutality.
Yes.
Do you think there's a great difference with the way that the US police managed the protest and, of course, the riots compared to how Nigeria police would rather go about it? Like we saw the US police using things like the rubber
what you
bullets
have
and all the
seen,
rest.
what you have seen, and that's where they should. Well, that's what they should have learned, is how the people are always superior to government and its agencies, whether it's security agencies or not. You will see the difference, and that you saw with the U.S. police. Even though they had all the instruments of force, they were brought to their knees. I mean, physically, literally brought to their knees by public protest. I am not in any way saying that the US has a perfect police. Far from it, There's a lot of racist elements in the US policing system. I said it earlier that the US is a police state, and but it is not in any way comparable to or with the Nigerian police. The Nigerian police has not started at all. We don't have a police. What we have is the constabulary police of the Queen of England. This is not the police at all. That's the way, the Nigerian police act on instincts. It's how the commissioner feels or how the guy you meet is feeling. That's what determines whether you live or die. And if they were the ones handling the U.S. Protests, we would have had no less than 200 dead people. They would have opened fire severally on protesters in cities across the country. They would have stabbed people. I was a student leader and I know what I went through with police. Police shot somebody beside me before. The bullet was aimed at me and they ripped open his stomach. A student at the University of Lagos in those days, as we were fighting during June 12th, fighting against military rule. I'd experienced the killing of people at a protest on the Ikorodu Road. Over 8 to 10 people died at a protest that were part of when Abacha was passing. During Babangida's time, it's experienced a lot of killings. So our police is not a police force. It's a barbaric force. That's
okay. Truth. Okay, thank you so much. One of the things also that was quite challenging for me in all of the situation that I consider the very fact that the US government actually demonstrated that power is truly of the people, to the point that the protesters, they took the protest, the riot, right within the premises of the White House, to the point that he was
the president
alleged.
had to be taken into the underground bunker.
You understand? And I'm just wondering, do you see that happening anytime soon in Nigeria? And what do you think our leaders can actually make out of this? Where it could come to the point where, because I don't even see that happening anywhere the first day.
At every point in time, there are events, global events that have happened, and I'm serious. Pay attention to this around the world. Nigerian leaders are always looking for the negative aspects that can boost their status here on the ground. So, of all these things that is happening with George Floyd, what is exciting to the Nigerian police or the Nigerian leadership is that officer who stood on his neck and killed him. Like, they are salivating over it. They want to be able to kill people like that. You know, they are wondering how was he able to kill somebody without even the person moving and without shooting the person. So I won't be surprised very soon if our policemen start standing on people's neck or breaking their neck so that they could die without a bullet wound, because that is their own attitude towards anything happening in the world. They look for the worst. If they are looking at the US now, they are looking at places that things don't work, and they'll be very quick to put it up. They'll point it out to you. If there is one blackout in any airport in the US, Twitter will be flooded with people. See, that's US now. If not here now, I'm not going to shout, say blackout. Meanwhile, we're having blackouts every minute. But is that one blackout in the US that's happened in a year that's exciting to government and its supporters in Nigeria? If there's any situation of a bad road in the US and there's just one pothole, maybe in the 500 miles long road, that one is what is exciting to our leaders. What are you talking about? There's one road in the US that had pothole. They will even send you the picture. So they're always looking for the negative aspect that can help them secure their own position here, to say that the rest of the world is not perfect. You can never find them, right, bring something to the other parts of the world that is positive. No, it's negative. They're always importing negative ideas. So every day they are hoping that something bad happens in the world that can boost, that can justify the criminality that they are perpetrating here. That's our leader. That's what our leaders here do.
Yeah, really, really very unfortunate. And, contrary to the narrative of, Black Lives Matter, the oppression of the blacks and all the rest, one of the very impressive sights we also saw was the fact that a good number of white persons joined that particular protest.
Of course.
And even beyond America, what do you think a multicultural society like Nigeria can learn from that?
We don't need to learn anything. We have past the point where we should keep asking ourselves what we learn. We need to do something. You see, we just need to get to the point where Nigerians are willing to do something. One day last week, I posted, I think it was this week, I posted something, it was last weekend, posted something about Mali on my Facebook page. And it was a protest in Mali. The protest was massive. And the first commentator, second, jumped on my page. We can never have a revolution in Nigeria because Nigeria is a multi-ethnic society. I typically don't respond to people on my pages, whether Facebook or Twitter, because I'm a big supporter of free speech. I let people say what they have to say. And I had to answer to the person that, so there are 80 languages spoken in it. There are over 80 ethnic groups in Mali speaking different languages. So it's not an excuse. Yes, we have 250 ethnic groups in Nigeria, but we are 200 million people. Mali is not up to that amount of their population is nothing close to ours. So what are you talking about? People always perpetually looking for excuses. So going back to your question about the number of people that participated. See, even during apartheid, there were blacks who supported apartheid, and there were whites who were against apartheid. In fact, there were some black South Africans who supported apartheid inside South Africa. During the civil rights movement in the US, there were blacks who were supporting the oppression of blacks. They called them Uncle Toms, who were very vociferous against Martin Luther Kings of this world. The same thing happened here. When Ken Saro-Wiwa was killed, there was a rally in support of his killing in Port Harcourt. When Abiola was jailed, there were Yorubas, traditional rulers, priests, all of them who were going to Abacha, Babangida, not release him. I remember vividly the Oni of Ife. The late Oni of Ife was part of them. They were all doing deals behind our back, going to Babangida to collect money. So we're a multicultural society, but we must become a uniconscious country or uniconscience country, one conscience for us to come together. The moment you have that right conscience, your skin color, your language, your religion don't matter. You just have to see what is wrong and condemn it and fight against it. And that's what you are seeing with Judge Floyd and all the people that are supporting. It's a fight for justice. Justice has no color. In fact, justice is described as blind.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much. What exactly is your concept about revolution? Of course, the hashtag revolution now, which was largely misconstrued
look,
by the administration.
I don't need to. I've explained it so many times. I'm tired. That a system of oppression that is weighing people down, right? That is causing you unemployment. That's causing you lack of opportunities. That's causing you to be sick, mentally and physically. That is causing you to die on the highways, right? That is causing you to lose opportunities to get college education, that's university. Even when you pass JAMB, they tell you have not gotten admission. That's causing you to lose blood. It's causing you to lose everything you have that you should have. That robs you of your dignity. That system is not sustainable and should not be sustained. A revolution is the counter that brings an end to that system of oppression that denies you of everything that is human and humane. It's as simple as that. Every other person, analyzing and psychoanalyzing is wasting his time in my view. And exactly this thing I'm telling you is the same that I told them when they detained me. We've reached a point where I feel Nigerians should rise. I'm not talking to the security agencies. I'm talking to the people. That if you're tired, wake up. Look, people will say, some people said, it's because, there's a democratically elected government. If a democratically elected government is placing their knee on your neck and suffocating you, do you just want to sit down there and die? Can't you just free yourself and drive that government away from you? That's what it means. You see, the tenure of a democratically elected government is not equal to the tenure of the ability to destroy your life. The moment they start doing the destruction of your life, it's no longer democratic.
Yeah, very true. Yes. Very true. Okay, maybe second to last question. Do you think there will be need for community organizing and, of course, orientation to be able to get all Nigerians on the same page, or most Nigerians, to really begin to rise to their responsibility? Because I am not comfortable with the level of docility, the way people have come to accept some of these things as a norm. And one of the past presidents of the country, Yar'Adua, he did mention that, you don't go ahead using the word that, the phrase, the Nigerian factor, as if being a Nigeria is settling for less. It's really being a Nigeria settling for less. What can we do to challenge this mindset?
Is it community organizing has different implications, different connotations for me. Sometimes when people say, they need to be organized, it's scary to me because it might mean that they are requesting for you to pay them to fight for their own rights. Sometimes it's an excuse not to do anything. You have to get people conscious. You have to move people. No. I actually believe that Nigerians are very conscious people. And they are largely organized because when they want to organize around evil, it's very deep, it's very easy to find Nigerians, when they want to organize around things that make no sense, like
let me quickly interject. I see like a conflicting statement here, because earlier you did mention of the need to arouse that consciousness, that the consciousness is not much in our people, and you also did mention that.
I am not saying that it's not much. I am saying that any consciousness, I mentioned it earlier, any consciousness that doesn't even lead to direct action is no consciousness. Any consciousness that can make you act according to your convictions is no consciousness for me. Consciousness that I'm talking about is not sitting down in a beer parlor and over-analyzing and paralyzing yourself with analysis every night, any moment you drink a bottle of beer. That's not consciousness. It's a consciousness that can make you defend your beliefs even at the point of death. That is the consciousness I'm talking about. So, and when I'm
how do
saying
we
that,
build that? And how do we build that
that's
in
what I'm
our
saying, that
people?
a lot of people know
Yeah.
what to do, but a lot of people would rather not do it. They rather, that's why I'm defining what, when people are asking for education, you know, you're asking, what do you need to be educated about? The objective conditions that should educate you, they're all around you. Hunger is a great teacher, you know. Sickness is a great teacher of the deprivations you are going through. When you travel from one point A to point B, and in Nigeria you find 10 accidents between Ibadan Expressway and Lagos every day, what consciousness do you need to know that if the road was well built and the money not embezzled, that people won't be dying like that? What consciousness do you need to know that it's a matter of time before it's your turn on that road to be in an accident, a fatal one for that matter, that will take your life? That's what I'm talking about. But do we need to still work? Of course. The the process of building community consciousness, social consciousness, political consciousness is a continuous thing. America has had democracy for how many years? About 200, probably 50 years now. But look at where they are. They are still protesting. They're still doing mass protests against police brutality. Tomorrow they will protest against another thing. And their democracy,
Okay.
yes, yes.
On a final note, yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. On a final note,
Yes.
you know, I have a great concern, and of course, that is the fact that many patriots that has actually fought for this nation has actually left not knowing what it means to have a nation that truly worked. You know, do you have such fears? Do you have such concerns that you want to see a Nigeria that truly works in your time? And what will be your final advice to our listeners out there in terms of ensuring that this nation get to work in our time? Because many persons that fought for this nation, the likes of Baba Fela, have actually left without knowing what it means to be from a nation that worked. And it's a great concern. What's your word of
It's not of
advice to
any
every
concern
Nigerian
to me.
out there?
It's not of any concern to me. As I've repeatedly said and quoted extensively, my life is not more important than the life of the person who is probably dead between the time we started this show and when we're ending now. I'm not worried whether I get to see a better Nigeria or not. I hope I do. In fact, if Nigeria becomes great today, I don't have a nice car to drive on a highway, right? So the people that will likely benefit from good roads, good hospitals, are the same people who are standing against us. Look at how many of them are stuck in Nigeria right now. Governor of Abia in Abuja taking treatment. Former governor of Oyo State in Lagos hooked to a ventilator. Chief of staff in Lagos didn't survive. Many of them are sick because they can't get anywhere. Even now, we are finding out from some of the records available to us that they have been secretly traveling to London. They have been secretly traveling a lot recently to London. But for a while, they were stuck here with us. So, but not to leave the question you asked. Look, I'm speaking to you from the point of selflessness. You know, if I have to grow a tree that will not become a shed where people can, you know, have, you know, can stay away from the sun in my lifetime, I'll grow it. I won't say I'm growing the tree because, you know, it'll grow to the point where I'll be able to sit underneath it. It may not happen. It may not happen. So let's talk selflessness, because it's selfishness that got us where we are today. You have heard about governors, presidents who abandon projects simply because it's not in their own part of the world. But now, what COVID-19 has taught us is that if Buhari had built a good hospital in his hometown, or Abakari, or Abia governor, they won't need to be driven, they won't need to fly all the way to Abuja or fly to London. But they haven't learned anything yet because they are selfish. And that selfishness will kill a lot of them. Because we haven't heard the last of COVID-19. We haven't. And I'm not saying that COVID is here it's not my own prescription for karma. No. But the way it is, putting them at disadvantage, their inability to go for treatment, you see a lot of them will develop a lot of complications before they can get out for treatment. Because now, for you to even travel abroad, you have to be certified fit. There's no country in the world now that is willing to take somebody on an air ambulance with COVID-19. You have to stay at home, stay in your country. If you survive, good luck to you. If you don't, well, bye-bye. Don't bring your COVID-19 to our country. No country is willing to accept a COVID-19 patient right now.
So
this is why we must all become selfless. And I'm talking to young people. It is not difficult to stand together. Stop the whole excuse you are giving about why Nigeria cannot experience a revolution or Nigeria can never be good. Because one day, your aspiration to leave the country will become impossible. You will be trapped here. So whether you like it or not, you will die one day, either at a young age or at an old age. But the likelihood that if you build your country, you can live perfectly long in it is what COVID-19 taught us. And that the mere fact that you didn't fight doesn't mean that you won't die. It doesn't guarantee long life. The fact that you are not an activist doesn't mean that something else can kill you.
Yeah, very true, very true.
Yeah.
On that note, Mr. Sowore, I'd love to thank you for being part of the conversations tonight. It's nice having your thoughts on this. And let me remind our viewers, let's end on the note of one of my favorite quotes from Obama, where he did mention that change will not come if we wait for some other time or some other persons. We are actually the change that we seek. And on that note, let me once more appreciate you and thank our viewers tonight for joining us. Thank you so much, Mr. Omoyele Sowore.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Oh, good night.